Funding for Schaffrillas is provided by Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business.
Yeah.
Hey yo, I watched the Hello There Guy show.
Hello There Guy
Contrary to
show.
what a lot of people are saying, this isn't the worst Star Wars product out there. Hell, it's not even the worst Star Wars product this year. And it does have a good amount of things going for it. But at the same time, it's also plagued with some truly incomprehensible writing, directorial, and editing decisions, to the point where it's really hard to get fully immersed in the show. I'm also just sick of people talking about it in general, because everyone's opinion of it seems to be either vitriolic hatred or unwarranted total praise. So I'm happy to provide a perspective that considers both the good and the bad. Ultimately coming to the conclusion that, yeah, it was mid. Kinda reminds me of another Star Wars product, actually. Oh yeah, one more.
Actually, I kinda have some choice words for The Last Jedi, but spoily warps ahead. Alert. Interesting way to spell spoilers, but okay.
Thing. This is going to be a full spoiler discussion. I assume everyone who's watching this has either seen the show or doesn't care about spoilers.
I don't care about spoilers, so hit me with it.
Yep, spoilers ahoy. I feel like the easiest point of praise with this show is the performances. Ewan McGregor is as good as ever as Obi-Wan, and he's a much more charismatic and compelling protagonist than Tamora Morrison was in the Book of Boba Fett. You can really feel just how tortured and frightened he is through his facial expressions, and he once again gets to showcase just how well cast he was in this part. I also really like the small bits of Hayden Christensen as Anakin we got via the flashbacks in episode 5.
As a Padawan, nonetheless.
Prequels and Clone Wars Anakin, and it's nice to see Hayden bridge that gap through his performance. I really would have loved to see more of him in the show. He's a really fine actor who is also well cast and just brought down by George Lucas's lack of focus on the actors during his direction. Hayden was also great as Vader, but we'll get to that later. Moses Ingram gives a solid performance as Reva. Is it pronounced Reva? I should have checked. Okay, I just spent the past 5 minutes checking if it was Reva or Reva and how you pronounce it. Apparently it's Reva. This character has a lot of problems, but they all tie back to the writing. I think the performance itself was perfectly fine. Obviously, you're a shithead if you attack the actress because you didn't like her character, and you're doubly a shithead if your main motivation was racism.
You if you do that.
Didn't think that needed to be said, but here we are. Vivian Lyra Blair gives a pretty good child performance as Leia. I would describe her performance as lovably annoying, which is perfect for a precocious 10-year-old. She's totally in line with the Leia we know from A New Hope, and the kid has a really good rapport with Ewan McGregor. I really liked Kumail Nanjiani's character. I thought the comedic performance actually worked, but I also kinda wish they didn't bring him back after episode 2. He probably would have been way more effective as a once-and-done character. And surprisingly enough, I really enjoyed Joel Edgerton's portrayal of Owen Lars, especially in the final episode. This is a character I've never given a shit about, but I think the actor did a really good job of channeling the gruffness Owen had in A New Hope. He didn't get much to do at all in the prequels, but I think here he gets to cement the fact that he was also perfectly cast way back when. So yeah, good actors doing their best.
That's nice.
But unfortunately, their performances are brought down by the direction and the writing. Let's talk about the direction
the standard
first,
for Star Wars
this
now.
is truly the most baffling part of the show. I know Deborah Chow is a capable director. I remember being blown away by the action scene in the 3rd episode of Mandalorian that she helmed. She's directed a lot of high-profile stuff in the past, even an episode of Better Call Saul, which is a good show that I like. I know she's capable of really gripping stuff, which is why some of the shit this show presents you with visually is just, huh? Everyone's already ragged on the embarrassing chase scene with Leia and the bounty hunters in episode 1, Reva's awkward parkour in episode 2, Vader somehow getting blocked by some fire even though he already showed he could douse fire in episode 3, the ridiculous trench coat scene in episode 4, the ridiculous barely hidden officer Tala took out in episode 4, the ridiculous everything else that happened in episode 4, pretty much. And yeah, I have no defense for any of this. This sort of stuff is frankly absurd, and it happens often enough to be really distracting. If it was just 1 or 2 silly scenes, and then the rest of the direction was incredibly strong...
God, the spinning blades for the Inquisitors is so stupid. I'm never going to understand who exactly decided to make those things. They were introduced in Rebels, and I've always hated them since. It's like, who needs a spinning lightsaber? Just have the regular lightsaber. It's already fine enough. If it's like some kind of free media like Visions, I'm open to having interpretations of lightsabers, but still. Those are supposed to be like Jedi hunters in a sense. And they're using the equivalent of like a propeller blade on their hands. How exactly is that effective at killing Jedi? If anything, you might cut off your own limbs trying to hunt them down. And again, they have the hilarious thing about using them like little helicopter blades to fly. Still ridiculous, but honestly, that Looney Tunes stuff is kind of hilarious for me. Like, I love it. I can't help but love it. Just makes me wonder if every other lightsaber spun at super high speeds will allow for the exact same result. But as a combat tool, nah. That thing needs to be thrown into the garbage and reworked from the ground up again.
And it'd be easy enough to overlook. But the stuff in this show that visually and logistically makes no sense just keeps coming. To the point where these episodes start to feel less like they were directed by a human and more like they were directed by an algorithm. Something that captures the feeling of human direction impressively well, but has just enough awkward
Calling it an algorithm of all
mistakes to
things.
remind you that, oh yeah, an AI made this. Obviously, I don't think that's actually the case. Yet. But what I do think happened was Disney wanting to rush this series out the door as soon as possible and not giving Deborah Chow enough time to second guess herself regarding how awful some of these scenes looked. There are a lot of scenes where her talent really shines through, particularly most of the Vader scenes, which we'll talk about later. She still manages to prove that she can direct really well in this show, but I don't think she had enough time to properly plan out every scene and make it all look good. I see no reason why some of the other Mandalorian directors couldn't have stepped in to help with some of these episodes. I think the show—
Nah, keep the Mandalorian directors into the garbage. We don't need them. Get someone from Andor, though. That show is praised to hell and back. So get someone from that.
show as a whole would have turned out a lot better for it.
Hey, he actually has like one right up here talking about Andor. Convenient.
I also want to talk about the cinematography and editing, which are kinda whack. There's a lot of weird cuts during dialogue scenes that don't make a lot of sense and take me out of what's happening. And the amount of shaky cam, particularly in episode 5, is just super disorienting. I saw people on Twitter going on and on about how this episode was Deborah Chow's masterpiece and how it was so phenomenal. And like,
maybe because the Vader scenes
episode that you guys watched was visually comprehensible, but I could not for the life of me make out any of the action when the stormtroopers were chasing everyone down. And
damn, that really is super shaky.
The awkward way Obi-Wan shouting her name was edited. Tala's death scene just
slow
came across as super
motion.
goofy. Not really something you want to be saying about a major death scene, but I'm sorry, I really can't help how it felt to me. Oh god, now we have to talk about the writing. I cannot express enough how much I would rather talk about anything else than some of the baffling writing choices on this show. In fact, just to prove it to you all, I'm literally gonna spend the next minute and a half or so talking about Squarespace and what a great tool it is to make websites, because I would legitimately prefer to do so than talk about some of the writing decisions in the Obi-Wan show.
Skip.
So let's do that right now. Squarespace is a fantastic, intuitive online website builder that allows you to create beautiful websites for your business or personal hobby. Present your work using Squarespace's professional portfolio designs. Display projects in customizable galleries and add password-protected pages to share private works with clients. You can even present your videos from YouTube, Vimeo, and Animoto on your Squarespace site. Add an image overlay to your video to improve your website's load speed by waiting to embed video players until playback starts. Every design automatically includes a unique mobile presence that matches the overall style of your website, so your content will look great on every device, every time. And if you don't want that, you can always disable the mobile view from Website Manager. Buying a domain from Squarespace is so simple because there are no hidden fees or price hikes. Each domain comes with an ad-free parking page and free WHOIS privacy on eligible domains. Squarespace sells over 200 top-level domains, so you can find the perfect name for your website. Choose a URL that ends in .com, .net, .org, or you can always get a more specific one like .art if you want to be fancy. If you're ready to share your passions or promote your business with the rest of the world, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Schaffrillas to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Okay, so the writing. Obviously, the best parts of this show were the confrontations between Obi-Wan and Vader. And I feel like conceptually, that is the ideal story to tell with Obi-Wan during this time period.
I'm gonna throw in my sense here and genuinely ask, did we need an Obi-Wan show? Don't get me wrong, having Ewan McGregor, reprise his role as Obi-Wan and have like an interesting side quest to show what he was doing while in Tatooine is interesting, but his story was already said and done. Like, we had him in the prequels, the whole ordeal with training Anakin, the betrayal, subsequently keeping overwatch of Luke. It was so set up to basically be just him watching over Luke, protecting him in case some disaster appears. I remember there was a fan animation about how Darth Maul came back with his robot legs to fight Obi-Wan back when on Tatooine, and he got killed by Uncle Ben. Yeah, as far as I know, did we really need this show? It's like, it's a pointless endeavor. I understand if it was something like Padawan Obi-Wan to have like a story with, see how exactly he became Qui-Gon's apprentice and whatnot. Or, for example, something in the midst of episode 2 and 1 or episode 3 and 2 to, kind of give us a perspective on what was happening. The mindset that Anakin and Obi-Wan had leading up to their inevitable, crash out or clash, I guess. And finally, the most important one is it just doesn't work for the original trilogy. Like, after episode 3, it's set in stone at this point. Darth Vader continues hunting Jedi and killing them. Obi-Wan is in the desert protecting Luke from inevitable dangers that might appear. Ahsoka is just somewhere, I guess. Just to mention a character. And it's like, it's set and done. It's set in stone and done and gone at this point. Like, do you really need that? Do you really need an explanation or some kind of story filler between episode 3 and 4? Like, the whole Death Star confrontation thing was pretty much this entire show from the original Star Wars. That's basically what this show is trying to do. Like, have that confrontation between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in the Death Star and just extend it to ridiculous degrees into a series. The problem is that one was kind of emotional and had weight, ultimately ending in Obi-Wan's sacrifice and Luke essentially being guided by Obi-Wan's ghost and later on paying off in him guiding Luke to the Dagobah system. I don't know. Hello. It's a weird tangent. It's a show that really doesn't need to exist. It's just the timeline that they decided to make it at is just literally pointless.
But that's why I found it kinda disappointing how sparsely the show actually focused on their interactions. They obviously had to do a lot of tiptoeing around the established canon to make the story work. Like, Vader can't know Obi-Wan is on Tatooine, so we gotta get him off the planet. Well, Obi-Wan having to go rescue Leia is a sensible enough driving force for the story, sure. But Vader also can't really have any interactions with Leia, so we have to introduce a whole new antagonist to get the story going.
See what I mean? It's like, the only way this could happen is just finagle with things so that it can kind of make sense, but it doesn't make sense. If it was just a story about Obi-Wan, like, being hired by, the whole ordeal with, who was it? Leia's father. How was his name, by the way? I keep forgetting it. Goddamn. I genuinely forgot the guy's name from the original trilogy. Organa, I think it was Senator Organa. Yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, that guy could have easily just did the original, like, discount. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are the only hope I have. Funnily enough, we actually have something of a similar confrontation with Starkiller from The Force Unleashed. He was essentially a Sith that started off as an interesting story. Honestly, that could have been way more interesting. Obi-Wan struggling with the dark side, inevitably falling to it and deciding to still participate in this civil war thing that's happening, having the rebellion being formed, and ultimately he became a somewhat decent target to the Empire. Then he later on became a Jedi trying to free people, inevitably came into contact with Leia, tried to save her, then Organa got himself into some trouble, ultimately having Obi-Wan going out to rescue him, and after Organa got rescued by Obi-Wan, the so-called rumors spread around the Empire, and Darth Vader suddenly became active, pursuing Obi-Wan in his endeavor to, kill him. That could have actually been a nice way to tie the whole thing. I don't know. It's very, very, very specific.
Reva and Leia serve their purposes to the plot well enough. but I felt like they took too much focus away from the namesake character of the show. This would have been so much better as a committed, compelling character study of Obi-Wan and his fallen relationship with Anakin. It's one of those rare instances where more fanservice-y flashbacks to the events of the Clone Wars would have been welcome. The practice duel the two of them had prior to Attack of the Clones was a nice touch when contrasted with the present, but by episode 5 out of 6, it feels like too little, too late. There's so much more of the past between these two that they could have shown in order to really heighten the dramatic confrontations these two are having now. And I just find Reva's inclusion in the show as one of the primary drivers of the
episode 3,
narrative to be such an odd decision. On paper, her story arc is really neat. A youngling who survived Order 66 and now wants revenge on Vader, working her way up to be his right-hand inquisitor, all in an effort to betray him while he's focused on Kenobi. That's a great idea for a character, but I feel like there's a lot of aspects about her that just don't add up. Like, she's super aggravated towards Kenobi for not being there to stop Anakin from turning, even though it's not really his fault.
Yeah, like what?
I guess that's the point.
If anything, I'd blame Palpatine for it. Like, you know, the guy who created the Empire. Hello? He literally responds to Emperor Palpatine. It's like, yeah, no, let's ignore the political side. Let's just focus on the guy who was apparently his master, who tried his best to save him, and ultimately he still fell regardless of it all. What? What you mean, my girl?
Vader straight up tells Obi-Wan in the last episode that he's not the one who failed Anakin, and Obi-Wan needs to accept that. But that doesn't stop Reva's "where were you when Anakin was killing younglings" question from not really holding much dramatic weight.
Oh, I don't know. A fucking war? Did everyone forget the Clone Wars exist? What? Where the fuck were you? He was in a different planet fighting General Grievous trying to end a war. Is it his fault he was trying to end a conflict and Palpatine decided to strike at that point to quite literally gain Anakin's trust and turn the entire Jedi Order against everyone? It's like, what? It's extra stupid knowing the fact that that's how the canon goes. What do you mean? What is your logic? What is your leap in logic? Makes no sense.
Obi-Wan was riding a big lizard and fighting a funny skeleton man in order to end the war that Palpatine manipulated everyone into fighting.
Cyborg skeleton.
Reva's supposedly
with
dramatic
4
question
limbs
evoke memories of what was ultimately a pretty silly battle, but it feels like her anger towards Obi-Wan is super misplaced and kind of a leap in logic. If there's a secondary person she should be this angry at after Vader, shouldn't it be Palpatine?
Yes!
The guy who invented Order 66?
You like me for real, we're on the same wavelength.
I don't know, her seething resentment of Obi-Wan just feels kind of forced and only in there because this is the Obi-Wan show, so we need another villain who also hates Obi-Wan besides Vader, since he can't drive every plot point in the show because of pre-established canon. Oh yeah, and Reva and the Grand Inquisitor surviving getting stabbed is kinda silly. Yeah, I get it, Sith are prone to use revenge to cling on to life, and Vader and Maul have survived worse. I got that. And
I still hate the fact that that's apparently a thing. I get the whole beating on the Force to survive incredible injuries and stuff like that, but it's like, what incarnation? Seriously, what incarnation? What exactly does that have to do? If anything, why exactly did Qui-Gon Jinn die in the first prequel movie? It's like, so he died, but he didn't get to come back to life, at least, well, from a certain point of view, that is. But he's a Force ghost as far as I know. Darth Maul was supposed to be dead until he got revived for some reason. I'm still trying to process that one. And everything about, well, Darth Vader is just, he got severe burns. And he is now a quadriplegic. But aside from that, at least he got a suit to support him to some extent, as well as new robot limbs to increase his strength. So, I guess it's weird. It's still weird to have like the dark side feed you so immensely so you can survive nonsense.
I guess later on Palpatine does too.
That one's just bad writing. Then again, Legends had the exact same story rehashed. Honestly, now that I think about it, The Last Jedi, not The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker really is just Legends material condensed and dumbified for a movie. Huh. Interesting.
Cool. But if Reva survived getting stabbed as a child because of her thirst for revenge, why does she think doing the same thing to the Inquisitor won't result in him also surviving? Why not just cut his
I
head
don't
off?
know. Not to mention, isn't he supposed to be still alive during the events of Rebels? Why exactly stab him? Stabbing another Inquisitor would make sense.
And how is she the only one of these younglings that survived due to a thirst for revenge? I guess I can buy Vader and the Inquisitor leaving her for not dead in episode 5, since they know she can't do anything to stop them. But if her desire for revenge is what's keeping her alive, then what happens in episode 6 when she doesn't want revenge anymore? How come she doesn't just die once she turns not evil? She really should have gone to a space hospital to get that wound checked out, and then went to Tatooine to get her revenge against Luke for some reason. Oh my god, don't even get me started on the dumbest shit I've ever seen anyone do in Star Wars. Hey Obi-Wan, it's me, known galactic senator Bail Organa. I haven't heard from you,
Bail
which could mean
Organa.
that you're captured or dead. But just in case you're just leaving me on red, I just wanted to let you know that I am going to Tatooine to check on Owen, to help him with the very important boy that needs to be taken care of. It's a good thing I said all of those important keywords instead of encrypting my message or being vague.
That's a thing they do in this series. It's official. Star Wars is so brain dead, it's practically just another IP for churning out slop. Damn. Seriously? That's a thing they do? Even like Rebels, as much as that show was, at least had the whole ordeal with R2-D2 being there alongside C-3PO. To, you know, kind of investigate, research stuff and everything. Why could we have, like, something instead of R2-D2 to send Chop from Rebels? That'd be an interesting twist of endeavors. Like, you know, we're sending an astromech droid to help him out, and it's like, oh, maybe it's something like R2-D2, and then suddenly it's like Chopper from Rebels. Goes in, communicates with Obi-Wan. A bit more psychotic than R2-D2, but still... Obi-Wan appreciates it. Then he gives him an encrypted message and everything. And again, we can have like a repeat of the original trilogy line of "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." Again, all of these could shockingly be reworked if we just have Bail Organa as like the guy in trouble. Like, honestly, that fixes a lot of things. Even in, like I said, with The Force Unleashed, he was quite literally put in a certain situation where he had to pursue Jedi Masters, and ultimately after Leia gets saved, he gets saved secondhand afterwards by Starkiller, and everything's like, oh, okay, nice. Let's form this rebellion. Let's get this bread. Also, that's another thing. Couldn't Obi-Wan be like the catalyst for the Great Rebellion or something like that? Like a Jedi rumor that still goes out of his way to, like, rebel against the Empire. Like, he's still got, like, that pre-war jitters and goes out of his way to fight oppression and stuff like that. Being the reason for why he had to leave Tatooine. He was, like, sick and tired of being in one place. He wanted to do something to change the galaxy as opposed to continue staying in a desert planet. Like, we could have handled this way more effectively now that I think about it, but... what do I know? I'm not a writer. I don't have access to this IP as much as I want to. God damn it.
And it's a good thing that Kumail accidentally dropped this message right in the sand where Reva lay dying, or else Reva couldn't have gotten this message and gone back to Tatooine to kill the boy for some inexplicable reason. And also,
That is even dumber. What? You're telling me in addition to not being encrypted, he quite literally dropped it? What
it's a good thing that out of all the people she could have talked to on Tatooine in episode 1, it just so happened to be Owen, so she knows exactly who this message is talking about. That's a relief. Whoa. Yeah, I seriously dare you to come up with a defense for that. I fucking dare you. Ultimately, I
There
think
is
the
none.
conclusion to Reva's arc in episode 6 was really nice in a vacuum, but the amount of stupid bullshit it took to get there from a
Again, also, like I said, the Inquisitors are supposed to be Jedi hunters. Why not have them hunt you down? What was it? The Jedi Fallen Order has that in spades. You start off quite literally being found out by using the Force in a different planet. Ultimately resulting in, what was it? the Inquisitor is going to visit you. It's a Cal Kestis' story from Jedi Fallen Order. Like, he quite literally gets found by Inquisitors. Other Force users find him to try to rebuild the Order. It's like an interesting story. And it shows again how the Inquisitors are supposed to be the main villains. Darth Vader is either preoccupied with hunting actual Jedi Masters or just going out of his way to find more stuff related to the Jedi that he either destroys or whatnot. Or another crazy story that well, new canon lore is going to explore. I don't know. Darth Vader goes through a ton of stuff. But yeah, it's like you could have still had Vader find out. It's just after the Inquisitor death, maybe 2, and the whole ordeal of like relaying how they identified him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader would have been like, Obi-Wan? Where is he? Like, I want to find him and kill him, you know? Makes sense.
Establishing that lightsaber wounds don't matter for Darkseid users, to Bale's idiotic hologram message that I'm shocked more people don't take issue with. I almost wish they didn't even bother trying to redeem Reva and that she just died in episode 5. Again, a cool character conceptually and the performance is fine, but the execution just didn't land in a lot of ways, unfortunately. Anyway, there's one last negative point I'd like to discuss before I finally talk more about what I liked about this show.
Okay.
And that negative is the entirety of episode 4. Just all of it. Prior to this one, I didn't hate any of the episodes. Episode 1 is kinda stilted and a bit boring, but outside of the Leia chase scene, nothing was awful. Episode 2 was pretty decent with a cool new planet, fun character moments, and cute Obi-Wan and Leia banter. And episode 3 was kinda good actually. Freck was epic, there was solid emotion, and the Vader stuff we will get to. The show looked like it was on track to just get better and better and turn out pretty good despite its slow start. And then episode 4 just trampled all over my hopes and dreams. When you only have 6 episodes to tell a story, one of them being bad...
Oh wait, it's actually 6 episodes? What? That's... Wait, but Mandalorian had like 10 episodes for the first season and then it had a second season with another 10 episodes. Wait. The Obi-Wan show is just 6 episodes? That's supposed to be a cheeky reference to the fact that the original and prequel trilogy is 6 episodes? Or is it just the fact that they quite literally did not give a shit and just condensed it all into 6 episodes? Man. I can with this series.
Is a huge detriment to the entire package. And it's not like this episode derailed the entire narrative or anything, but it just felt empty, aimless, pointless. Nothing of value was added to the story. It's literally just, oh no, Leia is kidnapped. Again! Let's go save her! Again! Not only a retread of A New Hope, it's a retread of episode 2 of this show. There was no reason to do this.
A retread?
I assumed Leia had served her purpose to the story of getting Obi-Wan out of hiding and back into Vader's orbit, but nope. We gotta spend yet another episode rescuing her. And since she can't meet Vader yet, we gotta have Reva be the main villain of this episode. Okay, I get what you're doing. So this will be like the episode where we finally learn Reva's backstory. Maybe either via flashbacks or her telling it to Leia. Nope! We get no new insight on...
Yeah, flashbacks in Star Wars. This ain't an anime, my boy. They don't do that shit here. And even then, if they do it, it just dedicate an entire series or episode to it. And even then, it's gonna be so clustered and pointless, you're wondering why exactly did they even bother.
On Reva or any of the other characters, really. Gotta save that for episode 5 out of 6 for some reason. Oh, well, clearly this episode's gonna have a dramatic death scene. Like, there's no way Tala's making it out of here alive, especially after Reva catches her. Nope! She survives this mission perfectly fine and then just dies in the middle of the next episode. Why? What was the point of any of this? This episode could have had some meaning if it had a dramatic sacrifice, and then Tala's robot still could have been the sacrifice in episode 5. Fundamentally, nothing about that episode would change, and this episode would actually push at least one of the characters' stories forward. Oh, excuse me, I spoke too soon. We do get the dramatic sacrifice of Wade, a character we meet in this episode with 4 whole lines of dialogue. One at the beginning,
essentially an NPC.
3 at the end, before he's unceremoniously killed off. I genuinely could not believe what I was seeing. This was the emotional peak of the episode. The laughable death of a an empty void of storytelling. As Wade died, I felt a piece of myself die, knowing that the story I had been following for the past 3 weeks, featuring the return of an actor-character combination I had wanted to see again for over a decade, had no interest
Obi-Wan using
in
a blaster,
consistently
so
meaningful emotional
uncivilized.
stakes or compelling writing. Star Wars has proven itself to be capable of so much more, especially when it comes to rescue mission stories.
Honestly, a lot of people probably like the whole idea of Obi-Wan using a blaster. I got a better one. You know Mace Windu in the Clone Wars old show? You know, the one with the Gendy Tartakovsky art style? Why not just use, like, Mace Windu's method of straight up just punching robots into oblivion and just doing that for stormtroopers? Like, punching their armor, cracking it, or, like, for example, dismantling it or removing it entirely. You know, just straight up Jedi fisticuffs. Why'd it have to be a blaster? That'd be kind of unique for Obi-Wan. He still doesn't like using a blaster, but he's still willing to throw hands.
Stories. Many have pointed to the delightful bickering between Luke and Han as their plan to rescue Leia slowly fell apart, and noticed that by comparison, Episode 4 of Kenobi lacked any sort of compelling characterization or interactions between our rescuers.
Even
While
uses
that's
his
an easy and
lightsaber
strong
here,
point
what?
to make, it wasn't the first thing my mind drifted to. There was once this really, really good TV show. You may have heard of it. It's called Star Wars The Clone Wars. There was this one 3-part arc where they needed to infiltrate this impenetrable citadel, and they made it feel
Sure.
impenetrable. The heroes had to freeze themselves in carbonite in order to avoid getting detected by lifeform scanners. They had to carefully consider every aspect of their plan and constantly adapt it when things went wrong. Most of the rescue party ended up dying. Hell, one of the people
even
they were
the
trying
alarms
to
got
rescue
triggered.
ended up dying. It had stakes, it had build-up, it had tension. It was an incredibly well executed and beautifully realized storyline from a bygone era where the people making Star Wars projects cared about telling good stories first and appeasing their corporate overlords second. If this episode had even a fraction of the ingenuity and tension of the Clone Wars Citadel arc, which also
See, that one may have had a bit too much freedom and it ultimately got canceled. And, you know, not a bad episode, but still, I don't know. Also, it's a war, so points for that, I guess.
featured the same character of Obi-Wan Kenobi performing a rescue, mind you, then it could have been something really special. But it's not. The only thing that could possibly give this episode any worth is if in a couple years they create yet another piece of fill-in-the-blank storytelling entitled Wade, a Star Wars story, showing what an amazing character Wade was and retroactively fixing his tensionless
Just
death.
please
I
stop
am
with
so
this.
tired. I just want this video to end now. But unfortunately, I promised I'd talk about the good stuff that I like in this show, so I guess we gotta do that now.
Hit us with it.
Essentially, all of my highest praise for this series boils down to one character. And that character is Darth Vader. Yes, it was silly how he let Obi-Wan get away in episode 3, but aside from that one moment, they did my boy so right in this series. I feel like he's one of very few characters that has come out of Disney Star Wars slightly enhanced. And he's the primary reason why episode 3 and especially episode 6 were my favorites of the series. Hell, I didn't like episode 5 nearly as much as everyone else because of the awful shaky cam and bizarre editing and stupid Bail Organa shit and poorly executed Reva shit. Seriously, if she wanted to wait until Vader was distracted by Kenobi to strike at him, then why did she strike at him when Kenobi wasn't there? How did she expect to win that competition? Whatever. In spite of all that, the episode still gave me some cool ass Vader shit. When he effortlessly repels Reva without even pulling out his lightsaber, then takes her saber and breaks half of it off and gives it to her in order to toy with her some more, and then he reveals that he always knew her identity, that is some king shit right there. That's not even mentioning how intensely he ripped apart the ship he thought Obi-Wan was on. Or going back to episode 3, how viciously he burned Obi-Wan alive. I love when a Star Wars villain is petty enough to torture someone in a similar manner to what happened to them. One of the very few things I like about Rise of Skywalker is how Palpatine throws Vader's grandson down a pit as revenge for Vader throwing him down a pit. It's the perfect combination.
I think that was literally just something they just did on the spot. Not even trying to do much about it. It's like, hey, random bit. I highly doubt they planned it. They just added it there, and it's like he fell down. Also, wasn't the entire area like just plain surface? How did that hole even appear in the first place? Someone blasted it?
Combination of silly and sinister that fits his character.
Not into the pit! It burns!
Meanwhile, Vader burning Obi-Wan is an amazing reflection of his unbridled rage and resentment. It's a very well-paced and well-shot moment that feels like it was given the weight it deserved dramatically.
It's not even getting
Stuff
burned
being
now
given
that
the
I
weight
think about
deserves
it.
Dramatically, Episode 6. Even in spite of all the baffling creative decisions that plagued the rest of the series, I have to admit that this final episode really did win me over. It felt like the story the show wanted to tell the whole time.
It started with the infamous rerun of "Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan?" Which is like such a ridiculous line when given the fact that Vader was pursuing Obi-Wan, not the other way around. It could have been interesting if Obi-Wan said it. "Have you come to destroy your master, my apprentice?" Or something like that. Or, "Have you come to slay this broken old man, my friend?" You know, something heartfelt. Instead, it was just like, "Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan?" Which, again, is from Vader's, POV, which doesn't make sense. What do you mean he came to destroy you? You were pursuing him. You were chasing him. It's such a weird line, too.
And from my perspective, it was worth trudging through the mediocrity and occasional awfulness for. The fight delivers a
My boy, if half an episode is something that's worth 5 bad episodes and a half, I would highly doubt that being the reason to watch the entire thing. You're just joking with me at this point. You're pulling my leg here. Say psych right now.
solid amount of spectacle while even subtly referencing the high ground in a pretty clever way. Showing Vader towering over top of Obi-Wan in a pit doesn't feel like a cute fan service wink. It feels like a clever juxtaposition to the ending of their duel in Revenge of the Sith. At first, I was really worried when Obi-Wan was buried alive and Vader walked away, because that obviously would have been a really stupid way to end things. But thankfully, the fight continued and led into the best scene in the whole show. Vader and Obi-Wan's verbal confrontation. I obviously noticed right away how similar it was to Ahsoka and Vader's confrontation in Rebels, but I don't really see it as a ripoff. More so, a profound version of Star Wars being like poetry, sort of. It rhymes. Ultimately, Obi-Wan's relationship with Anakin was different than Ahsoka's. He believes he inadvertently made Anakin into the...
One thing the Clone Wars specified is the fact that Ahsoka was like the little sibling. She saw Anakin as the big brother. And Obi-Wan saw Anakin as a genuine brother. Someone that he saw as an equal. So I guess, yeah, from that perspective, one was almost like a parental figure and the other one was like a genuine friend and ally. I mean, again, do we have to play the line from the original trilogy where Ben describes Anakin in the past?
Monster he sees before him, which I think is even more powerful than Ahsoka regretting the fact that she left Anakin. Cause she didn't really. She left the Jedi Order that betrayed her trust, but she and Anakin remained on good terms right before his fall.
That scene was oddly satisfying, you know, like someone that genuinely believed in something that ultimately got her in a bad light and she was just removed. And Anakin was like the closest ever to revealing that he really wants to leave the Order and be like Ahsoka. In the end, it's kind of like how she eventually took the path that he always wanted to take, but he never did, resulting in his fall and eventual turn to the dark side. I'm not gonna analyze the entirety of Clone Wars and Ahsoka. Like, let's just finish this one.
Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship took a much more severe hit, and Obi-Wan clearly
was direct.
regrets Anakin's fall even.
Like, if one thing is to be said about Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, Ahsoka pretty much got separated and ultimately vanished from Anakin's life. But Obi-Wan was still there, always present, always, you know, giving advice. And ultimately, after his fall and the whole ordeal with Padme on Mustafar, they had a confrontation. And it was much more impactful because in comparison to Ahsoka that had no confrontation, ultimately leaving it empty, Obi-Wan had that confrontation. I guess that's why a lot of people like the interaction between Obi-Wan more as opposed to with Ahsoka. You can see that.
Even more than Ahsoka does, since it was his job to mentor and guide Anakin. So while this is technically similar to the Ahsoka scene in Rebels, I think it's even more powerful than that already amazing moment.
One thing you're also forgetting to mention is that Ahsoka wasn't the only catalyst there. We also had several Inquisitors, Darth Maul, Ezra Bridger, and Kanan Jarrus, who were there as well. It was all for a Sith holocron, and it all culminated in like a gigantic interaction between Force users. Ultimately, Ezra saved his master Kanan from Darth Maul. Darth Maul ran away, as usual. And then Ahsoka had her confrontation with Darth Vader, resulting in Darth Vader allegedly winning, and Ahsoka just, I don't know, abandoning, meditating, harmonizing. I don't know. She just kind of vanishes until the end, where it's revealed that she got saved via time travel Deus Ex Machina, and eventually it's like, oh, so she returned, probably meditated, and then just picked up. What was the Mandalorian girl's name again? Why do I think it's Urza? It's not Urza. It's definitely, I don't know. You know, the colored the Mandalorian with colored armor that, you know, wielded the dark saber and stuff like that, and is apparently a princess, yada yada yada. And we have a series with her being involved in the Ahsoka series, I think. Whatever, either way. The big difference is that there were multiple, you know, confrontations between characters and interactions, and that one was kind of on the took last precedence, but it was still on the forefront near the end. Well, here it's just fully on the forefront. No other distractions, no nothing.
Hearing Obi-Wan tell Anakin he's sorry, and ultimately just calling him Darth, just really got to me. And the eerie mixing of Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones' voices, as Vader tells Obi-Wan that he killed Anakin, with a horrific smirk.
I would have preferred it if it was just a damaged version of James Earl Jones' voice. Like, Anakin doesn't get to be heard in that. Like, truly Anakin is gone. Would have been a nice touch, but I guess I'll deal with the Anakin Darth Vader mix.
Smirk on his face as the blue lighting fades to red. Yeah, this was a damn good, well-written, well-directed scene that enhances both of their characters and sets up their final confrontation in A New Hope incredibly well. I was always a bit skeptical about the idea of the two of them meeting again between their duels on Mustafar and the Death Star.
Still
but I
am.
think the show did a great job.
And I still
at
think
adding
it's
something
pointless.
meaningful to the canon between them. Obi-Wan can stop blaming himself for what happened to Anakin, and now it actually feels like less of a stretch when he tells Luke that Vader betrayed and murdered Anakin. It's the certain point of view that Vader himself subscribes to, and it's pretty raw and chilling to hear
The
that
meme.
from him. Other than that, Reva's arc in this episode was satisfying in spite of the insane leaps the previous episode took to get her here. Obi-Wan and Leia's final scene together was strong. The fact that he said hello there at the end was actually welcome and didn't feel pandery or memey. Probably because he went out of his way to deliver it like Alec Guinness did. And the Qui-Gon scene at the end was...
That's nice to have, like, the whole ordeal with... I mean, Obi-Wan, Ben Kenobi from Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan, saying the first one, God, I can't speak. Alec Guinness being the first one who said the infamous hello there line, and then later on, you know, Obi-Wan uses, Ewan McGregor says in episode 3. So having it being repeated here kind of makes sense, but I still don't think it was needed. Still, not gonna sulk on an opportunity at a new meme variant.
kinda silly, Like, Obi-Wan's just riding through the desert and he appears suddenly and it just looks goofy to me. But honestly, after the amount of goofy shit this show threw at me, I just kind of accepted it. They could have done his cameo in a more dramatic and substantial way, but at that point I was just happy to see him again, so I didn't care too much. I think it's a cool parallel.
Vanishes.
Vader and Obi-Wan's final
Sad.
scenes in the show is talking to their masters. Even though Palpatine also looked and sounded a tad off, I don't know, whatever. It was a good episode that finally justified the show's existence. To quote Qui-Gon in this episode, well, took you long enough. I know most of this review has been
Really? That's something he
because,
says?
Yeah, this show does
Based
have a lot
Qui-Gon.
of obvious problems in the writing, directing, cinematography, editing, etc. departments. Considering how long people have wanted Ewan McGregor to return as Obi-Wan, I really do wish the show was better. But at the same time, I didn't hate it or anything. The only episode I'd outright call bad was episode 4, and even then, it's not awful. Just an instance of bland filler in a show that really can't afford to have bland filler. The other episodes are watchable enough. I like Obi-Wan's relationship with Leia, some of the side characters are fun, and some of the new planets were cool. And ultimately, I think the performances,
There's new
the stuff
planets?
they did with Vader, and the final episode in general really carried this show in the end. It was
Again, half of an episode in comparison to 5 bad ones and a half is not something that's worth praise. It's just, essentially, it's just praising a picture in a gallery of modern art. It's like, really? Is that good? The entire art gallery is that good? I get if you like have the painting that's like so much heart and effort thrown into it that makes sense to like that. But to say the entire gallery with all that nonsense with the buckets of sand, drywall being cracked and framed, and you're essentially liking the entire gallery? Nah, my boy. I think your heart's in the right place, but your mind's being misguided.
passable and ultimately better than Book of Boba Fett, but it's also become depressingly clear that this is the new standard for Star Wars shows. The high quality of seasons 1 and 2
Was
of
that
The
an
Mandalorian
actual
were
thing they
clearly
did in the
just a
Boba
fluke
Fett?
for shows.
Wait,
But
wait,
it's
wait, wait,
also
wait, that
become
is
depressingly
hilariously
clear that
comical.
This is the new standard for Star Wars shows.
Again.
It's also become depressingly clear that this is the new standard for Star Wars shows. The high quality
Like
of
a
seasons 1 and 2 of The
spring.
Mandalorian were clearly just a fluke. Since now Disney's
that
more
was
committed to quantity
hilarious.
over quality and are gonna keep cranking these things out at a breakneck pace, regardless of their
Oh my
obvious writing
God.
and directorial flaws. So whatever, I'm just not gonna get excited about new Star Wars
That
stuff
blaster.
anymore. The same way I'm not really excited for new
Oh my
MCU stuff
God.
anymore. Also the same way I'm not really excited for new Disney and Pixar movies anymore. I'm just quietly gonna accept the oversaturation and rushed mediocrity and move on with my life. I'll still watch the stuff I'm mildly interested in for the sake of reviewing it, and I'll get excited whenever a few gems slip in there, like the finale of this show, or the 2 Boba Fett episodes that didn't have Boba Fett in them. But ultimately, I'm just gonna do
Really?
what Obi-Wan did and keep my head low waiting for a new hope to come around and destroy the evil empire that is Disney. So yeah, 6 out of 10.
That
it'd be a
incomplete
5 if
Death
the ending
Star.
wasn't so
Honestly,
good, but
very
yeah,
accurate.
Not the best, not the worst. It could have just been a 2.5-hour movie. I need a nap. Wake me up when Wade, a Star Wars story, comes out. Good.
Honestly, that's true. Why wasn't it either just a movie or just extended a bit more longer? It just feels like they made 6 episodes because, we didn't want to have a movie. So weird.
Good night, Tri-State Galaxy.
Then again, I guess from all the flops from both The Last Jedi, the Solo story, and subsequently The Rise of Skywalker, those things probably ruined any chance at possible movie iterations of characters, franchises, or stuff like that from Star Wars. Not sure if that's true, but it does feel like that those 3 had a major impact on these types of stuff. Hence why they moved into series as opposed to movies. Previous video. Yeah. We get it.